A lot of times if you open a folder for a song that I'm producing, you're gonna find Logic sessions and Ableton sessions. These things are tools, and like you don't have to be held down by any of them. At the end of the day, the only thing people care about is like the content and how it emotionally impacts them. Outside of a very small group of people, no one cares about any of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like if you go to like a museum, it's like, oh, do you use acrylic or like the painters, they know.
If you read the plaque, it tells you. Welcome to JFTR Live. Today we're joined by a great panel of guests who are up-and-comers in the industry, going to pick their brain about what's going on, how their career is shaped up. I guess to start off right off the top, Derek, just a little bit of like where you came from, how you pretty much ended up getting all the way to music directing with Aron Forbes a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm from Memphis originally. I got into music. I started playing guitar when I was 12 years old. I was way too into it. I was like the kid that like was listening to every Dream Theater album and like, I need to wake up at 4:30 a.m. so I can practice every day. And my parents were like, is he okay? Graduated high school, went to USC. So I moved out to LA and I was a jazz major. So continuing down the path of playing way too many scales and over-analyzing myself.
A lot of time alone in a room. It's amazing I can still talk, I guess. But anyways, towards the end of school, I started like playing live with like different artists and like kind of branching out towards like touring and stuff like that. And everything just happened to kind of work out miraculously where like I graduated and then like the next day I was flying out to go on a tour with this artist that I worked with at the time. I was music directing, which is like, you know, building live shows for artists, playing guitar, and just started touring with people. And I was spending a lot of time doing that through 2017, 2018, 2019, and simultaneously found my way to producing. Basically, artists that I was music directing with were like, hey, you should come in the studio. And I was like, wait, this is really dope. So I started to get credits as a producer and a writer. Eventually, through like some friends, I was introduced to Aron Forbes, who's a music director and producer and songwriter, kind of multi-hyphenate like person that I kind of, you know, someone who did what I was already trying to do. I became the assistant music director for Billie Eilish and Finneas. We co-music directed Conan Gray. And basically our whole kind of motto with that has been trying to just do as much as we can, like in service of the artists that we work for. So, you know, we're planning like their concerts for them, like, you know, helping put together bands, but at the same time, for a lot of projects, we're also doing the like mixed delivery. So like, for example, Billy has a couple of concert films that like I assistant mixed alongside with Aron. And, you know, basically it's just like from point to point, trying to just like keep the vision as tight as possible. So we have an entity called Sounds We Feel that all of that is kind of under. And then simultaneously I produce and write, like I said, was also nominated for a Grammy last year for songwriting and playing guitar on Beyoncé's Renaissance album. Woo!
Yeah. So that obviously great. And then, you know, just trying to stay busy within that space as well. So kind of feel like I'm working on 2 tracks at the same time. So that's the long-winded version of it. So yeah.
No, it's fantastic. Katie, I guess similar question, you know, from where your interest was to meeting up with Dale and how that developed.
Cool. Yeah. So it's been definitely like a weird kind of journey because I started out writing music. That was like my whole big passion. When I was a teenager, I was super into like rock music and I was like, I just want to be in a rock band and tour and that's all I want to do. But I was like, I don't know how stable that's going to be. So let me just go to college. Maybe I'll focus on like audio engineering so that I can do everything myself. Like that's kind of the mentality I had. And so I went to college and really fell in love with like the post-production type stuff. And we had to do like an internship. And I was like, well, I'm not really interested in recording. Like what kind of internship is there really? And so I saw Dale Becker's name and like mastering, and I was like, what is mastering? Like, I don't know, maybe I'll just reach out and see what it's about. And so I reached out and met up with him and was fortunate enough to have an internship there and learn what mastering was. And I was like, oh, wow. Like immediately I was just like in love with it and just felt like a real passion for it. And I have been there ever since. And that's like all I want to do now is just master.
Every day, just bringing up Wave Labs, right? Wave Labs?
Not Wave Labs. No, we use Pure Mix.
Oh, Pure Mix. Either way, it's
Yeah.
it's DAWs I've never opened. I don't open either one of those.
Yeah.
Mr. Daniel Cullen.
Yeah, so I'm from Boise, Idaho. Just grew up playing music originally with my grandfather. We would play, I was like 6, so he was playing like an organ and I would play piano. And that just kind of blossomed into the existential love and passion for music and its many forms. So at one point I wanted to be a classical pianist, but then I was like, I don't know if I want to play piano for 15 hours every day. That turned into a rock band, like hardcore music with my friends. But then they all wanted I wanted to write songs and they wanted to like play Call of Duty. And I'm like, I'm trying to like actually make music. No shade on all the I also play Call of Duty still. But anyway, then I got really into electronic music, and that was what got me into like production and engineering. Because I just having being able to play like piano since I was super young, it was kind of the music aspect always clicked and always made sense and it was intuitive. But the engineering and like the technology was always like, what is happening? Like, what is an EQ? You know what I mean? That passion led me going to Icon Collective, which is like a production school in Burbank. And through that network, I actually got an internship for this mixer, Daniel Brooks. His notable work is like the Marias. Just being in LA, young, 19, 20, just learning how to mix. I was literally just sleeping in a vocal booth, because I'm like, what else am I gonna do? Eventually found my way here, and through my network here, through you specifically, Matt, put me in contact with Bebe Rexha and been her vocal producer and recording engineer for the better part of 3 years now. And yeah, we got a Grammy nomination this year. So
Congrats.
pretty cool.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love it.
Ignacio here, from far away for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
From Chile, Santiago. Yeah, I started working as a really cleaning toilets and stuff back home. Really the only studio that there was in Santiago. I knew the owner and he was the engineer there too, through family. And after school, I was like, I want to go and learn your stuff. I want to learn what you guys do there. I don't know anything about this, but it seems cool. I don't even play any instruments. Slowly started working for him, this little studio, recording bands. The studio was not really busy at that point, so I could really get my hands on the consoles and from there just, develop this passion for engineering and recording and what is, everything that happens, pre-music being made. I finished high school. I was already 2 years into, almost engineering at that point. And I had an uncle that lived here in LA. So I just decided to come here straight from Chile to here after I graduated high school and, keep pursuing the engineering thing. And then I met a engineer that used to live 2 blocks down my street that had a studio there in Echo Park called Porsche Street Studios. He taught me how to work in this country, which is a whole different game. And in 2021, I think I met Ticio. I already follow him because, he was working with a lot of Latin artists at that point. I saw him and I was like, hey man, if you ever need an assistant, let me know. He told me, all right, yeah, pull up to the studio tomorrow. I just need an assistant. He was getting really busy at that point too. So, since then I've been just working with him, mixing every day, slowly developing also my face of as a mixer and been doing a lot of stuff for people here and people back in the Latin, world. And yeah, just been also developing a lot of this Atmos flow. Me and Tisha have been like perfecting the craft. So yeah, it's been a pretty
wild
pretty
ride.
intense and fun journey.
Nice. I guess across the board, right, all of you guys, like, you all found a path at a right time. What qualities do you think, like, allowed you to step in, right? Because you could have started working for Tizio, and then after a week, you could have been like, nah, I'm done. Dale could have been like, after this internship, I don't want you to come back anymore, right? So what do you think allowed you to step into a zone where, like, you could be that trusted individual?
Yeah, so I think a big thing is just understanding starting out, there's a lot you don't know, and there's going to be a big learning curve, and you kind of just have to like be determined to learn as you go and just pay really close attention to detail. And like in mastering, it's so much QC work, and you just have to really be able to pay attention and catch any mistakes that have been made. And I think also just like learning from your mistakes, and if you make a mistake, like own up to it and just make sure that you try your best not to make that mistake again. Just like really like learn from it, and just always be striving to learn more, and know that there's always more room for learning, every single day. Just keep trying hard.
What about you, Derek?
Yeah, the attention to detail is really important. I think showing that you are willing to do, whatever it takes maybe is a bit hyperbolic, but just like having enough of a care for each artist that you work with and every person that you work with to show that, hey, when I'm committing to this thing that I'm doing that I said that I'm going to do, I'm going to give it 100%. And I think that in a lot of situations, just being willing to be that person, that immediately sets you apart from other people. And then I think beyond that, it's like just the normal things that would make anyone want to be around anyone else. It's like for Aaron and I, or like, if I'm producing a song for an artist, we might be like in the room for like 10 hours or something. And it's like, if you can make that 10 hours like a good experience for someone else, then that's a good thing, I think, because I think for all of us, once we get to a certain point, being here in LA, surrounded by all of these peers who are all so talented in the various aspects of things that we're doing, like everybody could do the thing, but eventually it's like, can you be that person that's like, you can do the thing, but also like you're cool to be around, and not in a way that's like, oh, I need to be cool, but just like being chill, but like being able to do the work too. So I think that's really important as well.
When we hire like new runners or new assistants at the studio, like I'll ask them, like the first half of the interview is like technical conversation, like do you know some stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And then the second half of it, I'm just like, what are you interested in that has nothing to do with audio? Like, because you're right, like I have to spend 12 hours with these people every day. Like I want to know that like you care about something more. We have some pretty amazing clients that come through our building, and if they come out and they strike up a conversation with you, they don't want you asking them what compressor they're using on their vocal. They want to talk about sports or talk about camping or like there's so many other things that can be talked about. And like there's been like a few times I've been doing interviews where I'm just like, you care about this and I'm very proud of you, but you got to go do something else, like just to get some life experience, I mean, for you're talking about cleaning toilets, and then now you're with Tizio. Like I feel like you have a wealth of experience to.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing for me was like wipe down like everything that I thought I knew about engineering, and like I was trying to be an extension of Tizio. Mm-hmm. And the way to do that, I thought it was like, I'm gonna just like make myself, a clone of this guy. Because really my job is to make his life easier. I set myself like a goal to, learn the exact way he did things, like the stuff he did, why he did things, how he treats clients, how he talks to labels, how he talks to the artist, etc. And I'm sure you guys have had the same experience. You had some sort of knowledge, and then all of a sudden you're working for somebody that's like huge. That was like a big challenge, but I think it's like one of the biggest things that like sets you apart with other people that are trying to work for like a team or somebody, really trying to put yourself as like a tool, and not like you imposing like the way you do things.
I I find that happens a lot. Like he's even with Daniel and I, you know, like not that he's a clone of me or a clone. I don't think Daniel's not a clone of anybody that I think he's ever worked with. But I do think that you get to a point like where you've matched your mentor or matched your peer, and then what you can start to do is come up with your own ideas and your own identity within it, right?
I mean, I think it's like just in the beginning, you want to show like, okay, like, you know, I'm a useful tool. Mm-hmm. But then like once you kind of like match, like you said, the level, then you can come up with like your own stuff and your own sauce. And you can like suggest stuff. You can be like, hey man, what if we do this? Hey, what if we like try this? And then you become like your own like identity. And then that's even like a plus for him.
Yeah.
Because you're not only like doing the regular stuff, you're also like making the situation better and like, you know, giving a plus to this whole operation, you know?
Yeah, I feel like you gotta play by the rules for a little bit until they like respect you or like consider your opinion valid. But once you have that trust and the rapport with like artists, that's when you're like, all right, like I'm gonna fucking throw my crazy sauce at you and see what happens. And then a lot of designers are like, what?
Where'd you get this from?
Yeah, and it's just like there's a lot of I don't know, I don't need to get too base, but like societal structures in audio too. But this is now I'm going a little. This is a tangent. This is a tangent.
We're here for the tangents.
Even like knowing how to use Pro Tools, like on a simple level, we're not even going to consider you unless you know how to use this, which is super outdated. But whatever, we'll rock with it.
I don't really know how to use Pro Tools.
And aren't you, right. You're all in Logic, aren't you?
Logic and Ableton.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, we'll learn it. Like, you know, we'll learn the tools to put us in those positions to show that we're capable. For me personally, what I found has been the most impactful has been flexibility and like speed in the room. And a lot of that has to do with DAW. And I'm using Ableton now fully, exclusively, even for tracking.
See those eyes?
Wild. Yeah. Because I mean, even well, yeah,
you're putting out crazy.
It's a crazy concept, but yeah, that's how rigid audio and like the industry can be. It's like what pros? It's like what? It's like, dude, they're all canvases. Like especially in the writing process, when people are like, oh, we try this up 3 and like, can you speed it up 5 BPM? And they're like, oh, and I go back. Oh, but take the verse over there, but then go back down 5, and then you're like, all right, how am I going to do that as fast as humanly possible? Yeah. And for me, that's been Ableton, where you can literally just leave everything warped. And all you have to do is type the BPM, boom. But in Pro Tools, like you got to, you know, and analysis, warp.
It's a whole
beats, ticks, samples.
It's really just crazy how technology has progressed and like the things that we're able to do. I think that it's really interesting how the programs that you use, the DAWs that you use, like they're just like a means to an end for a way to get an idea out, and they give us different tools and ways to do that. Like for me, I'm between Logic and Ableton purely because that like each one has things that it does really, really well. You know, for like a concert, I'm building it in Ableton for the exact same reason, because like if we're in rehearsal and we need to like loop sections out and like make it longer or extend it, I can like do it really, really fast, and I can like resample audio, and I can be like, hey, you want like a long like throw of like the end of this song or something? I'm just gonna run the stems back into like a delay module and like mess with the parameters on the spot. And like for me, like Logic is really good in terms of like file organization, and like if I'm getting stem deliveries, like I can really quickly drop it in, know my BPM, know my like, you know, get a really easy read on the LUFS, and like make any changes to the stems that I need to make for it to hit more like the master, and like all those kinds of things in Logic. And then I export that out into Ableton. For me, it's like they can work together. And like a lot of times if you open a folder for a song that I'm producing or a show that I'm making, you're gonna find Logic sessions and Ableton sessions, you know? So I think it's just about like knowing that these things are tools, and like you don't have to like be held down by any of them. Like this is a big generalization, so maybe it's not true. But at the end of the day, the only thing people care about is like the content and how it emotionally impacts them. And like outside of a very small group of people, no one cares about any of that stuff. Yeah. Like it's really about how it enables you to elicit the emotional response that you want out of people.
Yeah. 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 No one cares. Yeah. No one cares.
Nothing matters.
And what is it's hard because like all of our jobs going back to what we said, a few minutes ago, it's like this attention to detail that like we have to care about so that the audience never even thinks about it, right? When it's bad, the consumer, they know it's bad. But when it's good, they don't even think about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, like if you go to like a museum, it's like, oh, yeah, do you use acrylic or like the painters, they know.
Yeah.
I'm like, we don't fucking know.
If you read the plaque, it tells you.
Well, you know what I mean? It's just like I'm walking around this museum and either I'm compelled or I'm not.
Yeah.
And who cares?
I mean, it really just matters about using the tools to make compelling art across the board, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the thing is throughout your guys' journey as well, one thing that I'm sure, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but mistakes. Is there any mistakes that like stand out as a time that you were like, oh, this is a really big learning moment for me that I'm rising from? Everyone's perfect. Cool.
No.
We're just going down memory lane.
It's behind layers of trauma.
Unlocking old memories.
Yeah.
We're going to dark places now.
I'll go for it. I think as a general thing, I have really put so much weight on my career. Like sometimes I'm just so locked in and focused on what I'm doing that like I just like don't answer people and like I'm trying to work on it. But I think that's probably the biggest thing that I wish that I could like go back and change. I don't think that's like specifically related to like working necessarily.
No, I mean,
but
it is. I mean, I'm in the same boat. Like I think about that a lot where I'm just like, oh, like I'm moving forward in my career and some really cool things are happening. But like the people who I thought would be closer to me in these really cool experiences aren't.
You may have thought that like spending 100 hours in a room working on like, producing something, like you can have the same benefit from stepping away from it and spending time with people that like you care about, and grow in a different way that allows you to do better. So
Yeah. It's important to be a human.
yeah, it's really important to just like, be thinking about like this life outside of this. And I think sometimes when you get to the point where you're fully okay with walking away from it, then you're like, oh, like this isn't everything,
You cannot associate your self-worth with your economic and like financial success or your critical acclaim, whatever. They're two different people. Daniel versus Daniel, the engineer, vocal producer, whatever. It's like, that's literally like a job. That's me clocking in, clocking out. And yes, I love it. And yes, I'm there, like, and I'll go above and beyond. But the moment I started thinking about Pro Tools more than my niece, then it's like, dude, you just have to be healthy about it, because if you let it consume you, you're not gonna have a fun time. But I did remember I have an actual mistake.
Oh, do you?
High stake moment. I was doing last year a lot of, they called it tune tech and like playback for Nav, and he did a few shows with Metro Boomin. And there was one event where they told me like right there, like 30 minutes before, they're like, all right, Post Malone and Sway Lee are all gonna use your rig.
Oh.
So I go into my Pelican. I forgot my Thunderbolt. Haul ass to Best Buy. Come back, made it in time, but it was like,
You were sweating.
triple check everything, dude. Like
Yeah.
even when you think you have it, triple check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can think of a mistake. It still haunts me. This was from like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, like very early on. I was delivering an album and I QC'd everything and I thought it was good, and then sent it out and they're like, hey, there's a click at like this spot. Can you check it out? And like my heart just like dropped. I was like, no way. Because like in mastering, like you are sending out the final product. You're supposed to catch these like little things. There might be clicks left in on purpose. And so we always want to check to make sure, like, did we add this click? And I checked and it actually was like a glitch in the export. It ended up being fine. Like we just sent fixed files and it wasn't like a big deal. Like nobody got like fired or anything. But that feeling has always stayed with me of like just that pit in my stomach. So now like I check for that glitch every single time I export over the past like 2 years, just because of that one time.
Yeah, that happened. It not really my mistake, but it was made my mistake. Was that I was working on a film, And the guy, he had the film mix, then he made a duplicate, did the mix, and then copied the wrong direction. So it like deleted everything we had done. Ooh. And he was just like, this is your fault. And I was like, I haven't touched the computer. Like, what are you talking about? I stayed up till 3 a.m. I found this crazy script that like, because Apple doesn't actually like truly delete something unless you like wipe the hard drive. And like I was able to like do this really weird thing where I was able to save like 5 hours of like the 7 hours that we worked. And so I was able to come in and take care of it. But now it's like I change names on things and you like carbon copy cloner. Like I am like nothing stays the same name. Nothing like like he was so mad. And I was like, I didn't I'm not the person who touched the mouse.
Yeah. And well, to speak to that, at least in my experience, I feel like we're at the ending of like super aggressive mentors, maybe, yeah. Like people I worked for definitely had like, yo, like I used to get chewed out for this, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, thank you for not chewing me out.
I guess I didn't even think about it when putting this table together, like, but across the board, like everyone that you guys work for is like just a dope individual. Like I'm sure they get stressed. I'm sure there's times when like moods change, but like it's probably pretty helpful that like you guys get to work with someone who treats you like a human, I guess, which probably feels pretty good.
Sure.
I guess like looking ahead now, you know, like you guys have mentors that are treating you like human beings, you know, what's the next step for you guys?
For us personally or?
Industry-wise, yeah.
Industry-wise.
Like within the roles that you guys have, you know?
Yeah, for me, just more continued work. And I'm really viewed as like a vocal producer, recording engineer. I would like to, you know, be more considered for big mixing projects. But I mean, like mixing world is really interesting because I mean, like top 40 artists, it's like a monopoly of like 3, 4, 5 people. And all those guys are legends and they're definitely like incredible engineers, but a lot of it is just like, I don't even know how to explain it.
It's a shadow, maybe?
It's like, yeah, kind of, because like we'll be working on some stuff and it's like the label already knows who's mixing this before it's even made. Like there's already a person and it's like, well, that's kind of weird artistically. It's like you haven't even heard the song and we already know who's mixing it. But it's like, oh no, we know that this person for 20 years has made #1 songs, which is also valid. Like you can't be mad at that.
I mean, it is valid, right? Because like if someone has unquestionably like gotten records over the finish line consistently, it's kind of hard not to already be like, yeah, we've already thought that Tizio's going to mix it, Dale's going to master it. There's reasons that we want to work for these people, and there's reasons why we want to be trusted by these people, because it gets us to get into a place where we get to shape, where you guys get to shape like how the future of audio starts to develop.
Yeah, I mean, I would say keep, you know, the good work consistent throughout, you know, as long as you can, but also like keep excited about like your craft. I guess like adapting is a very key thing to like success, and you know, always keep your, you know, ears open and like eyes open to like to what's new.
I feel like a really important thing for me is to always try to become a better version of myself and just know that like there's always something that I could be doing better, and it's on me to figure that out, you know, because say that somebody doesn't like the way that I'm doing something in mastering or whatever, a lot of times people are busy and they don't want to like sit down and tell you like, I don't like this, but they're just going to go to like another person. So I like to just question everything that I'm doing and see like, is this helping? Is this hurting? Is there a way I could be doing this cleaner or better? And I think we're all just trying to be like our best versions of ourselves and not just like phoning it in or just doing like, oh, this preset is cool, click, send. Like, you know, you want to strive for greatness.
Yeah,
totally agree with that. Inherently what we do is competitive in a way, but also knowing like to me at least, the real benchmark is like you versus yourself. And, you know, I've been very fortunate to be a part of some very cool things, like great shows, great albums, great projects. It's like obviously wanting more of the same, but at the same time, being able to continue to be an asset to the people that I work with. The more that I can offer for someone. And, it just allows you to be able to go into any room and say, hey, maybe I'm not going to have the producer hat today. Maybe I'll have the songwriter hat, or maybe I'll have the engineer hat. I feel like the more skills that we have, especially in something that's like as amorphous as music is, where like, you can have a situation where someone has decided this is the person who's going to be doing this part of this thing. And it's like, well, if I've put all my eggs in the basket of that one thing, then that immediately excludes me from that opportunity. So I think for me, it's about like continuing to grow in those ways. So then in any situation that I come into, there's some way potentially that I can like be an asset to the people that are involved with that thing,
Sure, even to be part of the conversation sometimes is like,
yeah.
You know something, you might never use it in your work, but, you're in a room, people are talking about something you're not really, super knowledgeable about, but a little bit, you're part of the conversation.
Yeah, well, I feel like also off of that, like one of the benchmarks that I've seen, like being here for, the amount of time that I have is like the rooms that you find yourself in and the conversations that you find yourself a part of. I feel like I've had some moments where things have happened and I'm like, why am I here right now? Like this is like, this is crazy, but then you realize it's like, oh, because the people in that room respect you and someone thought of you to be a part of that, to come into, and like, that may not have been the case 5 years ago, So I feel like sometimes it can be good to like zoom out to and be like, wow, like the opportunities that are here now weren't there before. And that's something to be grateful for. So,
yeah, I think like if you're getting jaded, like that's like the worst thing that can happen. And it's weird that it happens to people like young in the spectrum of life, because it does happen all the time. And it's what, you're like 24, bro?
Being around someone who like is in that place is just like so dark, and it's the worst thing. And sometimes the things that people work on who are in that place, you can feel it in the thing, the lack of the spirit.
You're in the room now.
Yeah, well, you can feel it in the room, but you feel it in the work somehow. Like there's something so interesting about music to me that's like it literally is subtextual. Like there's so much information in a song that's like not the words or the song or the way that it's mixed, or like the way it, like the attention to detail to it. Like I feel like I can hear when it's being phoned in sometimes, and it's like not a great feeling.
Sorry, what does jaded mean?
Jaded.
Sorry.
I guess it's just like,
you're like over it. You're like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
I see.
Like,
Got you.
Yeah.
Sorry, we can go back to that. Thank you.
Katie, how do you keep mentally? You're like, I don't even know if I am.
Who knows? I think it's just, you have to be really intentional about setting boundaries. Take care of yourself, go to the doctor, get a checkup, go to the dentist.
I'm long overdue.
Oh my God, yeah. And like do the dishes, do laundry. Like, because a lot of times you come home late at night and you're like, I just want to go to bed, and then you wake up and you go back to work the next day. So when I am done, when I'm at home, like I am trying to just not be on my phone, just be really intentional about time with me and my partner, getting that personal life together. And I think once you're like healthier in your personal life, it really shows in your work, because when you haven't been eating right, you haven't been sleeping, your work quality will just decline. You'll start making more mistakes. So you really need to be able to have like a fresh mind going into work, and that starts by taking care of yourself.
I used to have this tech I used to work with back at Sphere Studios. There would be times when like I'd be like racking my head about something, and he'd just walk in and be like, go home. We used to call it, go contemplate your pillow and come back tomorrow. 9 times out of 10, I'd come in the next day and be like, oh, done. All right, cool. That was dumb of me, like.
Jumping off of like just the idea of being healthy, I think that also that kind of like lends itself to why at a certain point it's really good to like work with people, work for people, partner with people, because sometimes, it's just more than like what is like the reasonable amount of man hours to do, Sometimes you might have to go on an alternate schedule with someone you're working with, and it's like, all right, like I'm going to work on this for 8 hours and then like sleep, and then you work on this while, I'm sleeping, and then figuring out things like that where you can be efficient with your time and stuff like that, but also where you can like set a boundary for yourself. And with Aron, that's one of the things that I feel really grateful for, because like there are times where like I'll just be like, ugh, and he's like, bro, like,
just go home.
Yeah, contemplate your pillow. Not he hasn't said it like that, but I think we might introduce that into the fold. But
patent pending.
Yeah. We got you on the licensing. It'll be great.
And that's weird though, because it's a great point. It's not weird, but because it in the beginning, it's a scarcity mindset. Like you're gonna stay up all night, or at least I did, because it was like, oh my god, this is my only opportunity. I have to strike while the iron's hot. And it's totally not, but in the moment, that's what it feels like.
It feels like that,
and you know, maybe it is, but unfortunately, or for better or worse, you work until 6 a.m., you deliver it, and then you're like, yes, I delivered that. And then they're like, oh my God, like, sounds whatever. There's a universe where you could have sent that the next day, and they would have said the same thing. You know what I mean? But you don't learn that until, like, you've been, like, validated already, where they've already said you've done a good job, like, and you've proven it time and time again. Then you have the confidence to be like, all right, you know, now I'm gonna go to bed at a reasonable time. It's really unfortunate because it is more of like, it's yet again capitalism creeping in. Yeah, not to get too based and esoteric, but it really is. It's like, damn, we're just like in a society that's like, if you don't deliver it right now at 5 a.m., boom.
I think it's hard. I mean, I would say, like, you know, you're probably in that boat. I'm sure Tizio gets stuff sometimes where it's just like, this needs to be done tonight. I mean, I've worked on a good amount of hip hop and R&B mixes where it's like, I got the stems 12 hours ago and it needs to come out on Friday and it's Thursday at, you know, 3 p.m. And
pretty
like,
much.
What? Okay. Well,
I guess, you know, like, know that you're like in a time where like you're probably going to be super stressed and working hard, but then, you know, when you have a second, when you have like, you know, when the storm passes, do some actual stuff for yourself, for your own whatever. Like, I'll go to the beach, I'll surf for a little bit, you know, just like have a little me time so that I'm like back fresh.
Final question to kind of wrap this up a little bit here is there anything exciting that you are working on that, like, by the time this episode's drop, you're going to be excited that it came out?
I'm never privy to when anything's coming out.
No.
They're like, oh, it's out.
BB's just like, it's done.
Yeah, I'm not in those conversations. I just have to send the files ASAP.
Right. You got to be up at 2 a.m. to send out the files.
Yeah. I'm so excited to not be using Pro Tools anymore. I'm so gassed.
Hater.
No, I've just been using Ableton for like way longer, so I'm just like so much quicker. So I'm so excited for that to be the only tool I have to open and keep exploring weird techniques, weird sound design, weird vocal mixing, just trying to get weird, but you know, in a musical way. Like
for me, there's a couple of shows and tours and stuff like that we're putting together that I'm really excited about. And then from there, just like, you know, continuing to be in cool rooms with people that I look up to and trying to, one, figure out why I'm there, but two, contribute the best way that I can. So I don't know that there's much specifically that I can talk about, but I'm very excited to be doing those things and, you know, more to come. So, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of hard because at mastering, you work on a lot of different things at once. Often, kind of like you, we don't know when things are coming out, and there's a lot of like confidentiality stuff. So I can't say specific things that I'm excited about, but I am very excited for this year and all the opportunities that are coming.
Nice.
Honestly, man, we just got a new grill at the studio. So we're going to be grilling up every day, hopefully. I'm really excited about that.
I'm coming
for
over.
Sure. But yeah, no, a lot of cool albums coming that I've been mixing on my own. It's been pretty intense 2024, which is good. But yeah, hopefully, you know, they do well and people like them, and yeah, just keep doing the work.
I love it. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us, answering all these questions and giving us some insight. We'll have to do like a reunion episode in like a couple of years or something, just see where everybody's at. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this JFTR Live episode. Talk to you guys soon.